Okay, we got to do another 35mm lens review today. So we still got to do the Sony, we got the Canon, we got the Sigma, we got the Tamron.
Okay, you're obviously confused. We just did the Tamron 35mm.
That was the 35-1.4. This is the 35-2.8.
How many 35mm do you need in the world? Like, is it, wait, okay. Is this a prank? Welcome back, DP Review TV viewers. Chris Nichols here, and the Tamron 35mm f2.8 for the Sony FE mount has just hit the shelves. We have one today. Now, we thought we would test it against the venerable Zeiss T-Star 35mm 2.8 for FE mount. This is one of the earliest lenses to come out for the FE mount and had a very good reputation. It is more than twice the price currently right now. So is it twice as good? We're gonna find out. Oh, it's never wide enough, man. Damn you, 35. Damn you and your endless non-committal compromise between telephoto and wide. Damn you to hell. It's art, hang on. Now, I know some of you might be saying, what's the point of 2.8 primes? They're too slow, but they can be very compact. Optically, they're usually very good. And other than the case of the Zeiss T-Star, they're often quite affordable as well. So I think there's a place for them. So I think if you look at this, you can clearly see a size difference between the two. To its credit, the Zeiss Sonnar is absolutely the more compact lens. But to be honest, both lenses are quite compact on the front of a full-frame mirrorless Sony. Now, there is a weight difference, but it's not huge. We're talking just roughly 80 grams. The Zeiss Sonnar is 132 grams. That's basically 7% of a Nikkor Noct, and the Tamron is going to be 210 grams, just over 10% of a Nikkor Noct. Sounds big, but we're only talking 80 grams. I'm really not noticing much of a difference. The last thing I do want to mention, though, the Tamron is physically larger around. Its diameter is quite a bit wider. It takes 67mm filters. The Sony takes 49. That is absolutely going to be a big difference. However, I would say that Tamron as a company seems to be trying to make a lot of their recent lenses with a 67mm filter thread, and that should help simplify things. And on top of that, you're probably going to have other lenses in your repertoire, and 67 is quite common for them as well. So I think that's largely going to be a personal choice based on what lenses you already have in your bag. So with the city skyline behind us, we decided to do one of our impromptu res tests. Again, informal, but it does give us some idea. And we tested both lenses, both center and corners. Now, when it comes to center sharpness, regardless of aperture, I'm not really seeing much difference in these samples. I mean, they're both quite sharp lenses. Where you get a real distinct change is wide open in the corners. I have to say that the Zeiss really does a fairly poor job in comparison to the Tamron. You can see some softness with the Tamron's corners, but overall it is noticeably better. One more thing I do want to say, I always like to manually focus these, punching in, magnifying, just to get really precise focus. And the Zeiss does have a way better manual focus ring. It's metal, it feels smooth, I really do like the resistance. The Tamron is not bad, but you can definitely tell that there's a little bit of play there. Okay, so we found a really nice scene here to do our longitudinal chromatic aberration or LOCA test, and from what I can see here, wide open at 2.8, the Zeiss T-Star 35mm has tons of LOCA. Quite a magenta shift in the foreground, but the background gets a bright cyan LOCA. Now, in contrast, here look at the Tamron, similar shot at 2.8, and you'll notice a slight magenta tinge in the foreground, the background a slight green tinge, but very, very well controlled. So definitely an absolute win for the Tamron, and remember that LOCA is something that'd be quite difficult to get rid of in post. Now, when it comes to ruggedness and build, the Tamron, although heavier, definitely has a more plastic feel on the outside, but it is weather sealed and it has a rubber gasket around the lens mount. Now, the Zeiss does feel very solid, metal construction, high quality build, and although Sony does say that it's internally weather sealed, whatever that means, there is no rubber gasket around it. And so, at least, from the outside, I would say the Tamron is probably going to survive more inclement situations. Now, when it comes to autofocusing speed, we are noticing a big difference. The Tamron is actually straight out quite ponderous and slow. In continuous, it still likes to wobble quite a bit. In single point, it looks like it just takes its time going from foreground to background to foreground. In harsh contrast to that is the Zeiss. It is a very fast focusing lens. Despite the fact that it's quite a bit older, it has a very efficient motor. I'm very confident it's going to snap right to my point of focus. It's a big benefit to the Zeiss lens. Now, if you've watched the show, you know that I love close-up photography, and the Tamron's gonna win in a huge way here. It does a 1:2 life-size reproduction as opposed to the Zeiss's 1:7 life-size reproduction. The Zeiss just is not able to get as physically close. The Tamron would absolutely double as a great walk-around close-up kind of lens, and the Zeiss is gonna leave you wanting for more. Lack of macro rearing its ugly head here. Okay, so we did a quick bokeh test here, and I do want to point out that this is at the Zeiss's minimum focusing distance, okay? Shooting these here at 2.8, you can see actually very similar bokeh. We stopped both lenses down to f4, and you can see here again, nice, clean, very similar results. I'd actually almost say that the Tamron bokeh is a little bit less busy. It looks a little bit cleaner. We don't get as many onion ring sort of shapes inside. Now, one thing I do have to mention, of course, is because the Tamron's macro capability is that much better, I can go that much closer. And now you can see here, we get a really, I don't know, creepy or good shot of Jordan's eyeball, but we can also get quite a bit larger, softer bokeh. So another advantage of the Tamron, that we can break that minimum focusing distance. Now, the Zeiss has a very short manual focus throw, and when we did our breathing test, it does definitely move, but it's pretty minimal. However, when we look at the Tamron, you gotta turn and turn and turn that lens. Now, a big part of that is its better macro capability, but we did also see quite a bit more lens breathing on the Tamron lens. So I have a nice dark background here. Sun is just in a really good position to cause some flare. And the first test we have, as you can see here, the Tamron 35mm with its Babar coatings, BBAR, B-Boy coatings. And not bad, like we're getting a little bit of purple flare, but you can definitely see on the right side of the frame where you get quite a bit of flare and washout in those dark areas. I think the coating is doing a good job here, but when we look at the Zeiss, those T-Star coatings are beyond reproach. It's really eliminating a lot of that flare. We are still getting some small green marks at the bottom right of the frame, but for the most part, a definitely cleaner response to flare. Well, it's conclusion time, and the final thing that we're going to talk about is the price point, because this is a huge difference. The Tamron's coming in at approximately $350 US, which is 86,000 Canadian dollars. But then you look at the Zeiss T-Star 35mm, it's $800 US approximately, which is about 4.6 billion Canadian. Now, the Zeiss is slightly more compact, but really the only compelling benefit for me was the autofocusing speed. That was a big disappointment with the Tamron. However, we're still looking at twice the price of the Tamron's lens, and that makes the Tamron half the price but twice the lens. And I was honestly expecting things to turn out the other way around. Well, our clear winner today, I think you can easily see, is the Tamron 35mm. It has been a fantastic year for Tamron. Lots of great lenses at very good prices. Don't forget, leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Twitter and Instagram, please check those out. And don't forget to subscribe. Click those notifications so that you get more of our videos to come in the future. But until next time, I'm going to play it with a beautiful little song. Music today provided by me, of course. Actually, no, beatsweet.com. Check out their music.